Hi, my name is Ecstasy, and today I'm going to show you how to make music like Space Laces. But before we get into the project, let's talk a little bit about Space Laces and what makes his music so special.
Fucking unbelievable.
Over the last decade, Space Laces has become one of the most respected names in bass music. Known for his incredible range between different genres and extremely precise sound design, he is widely regarded as one of the most technically skilled producers in the scene. His music has influenced a huge part of modern dubstep and bass music, while still maintaining a sound that is completely his own. So, to understand this style better, let's start with the basses. So, let's break down the basses a little bit. This first sound is the impact bass. Oscillator A is being frequency modulated by oscillator C, which is using a very simple waveform. After that, I use some effects inside Serum to add more distortion, filtering and texture. Then I add some post-processing to make it hit harder. The second sound is much simpler. It's basically the bass that hits on every beat and keeps the groove moving. I'm using a basic waveform in oscillator A, and oscillator B adds most of the character. After that, I use a few effects inside Serum and some light post-processing to make it hit harder. Nothing too complicated, but it works really well in the drop. I also added some offbeat basses to fill the empty spaces and keep the groove moving. Then I used a few short fills and glitches to add variation between phrases. Underneath everything, there's a separate sub following the main bass pattern. It's made with simple waveforms, with a saw layer on top to add some extra texture. Then I use some distortion and saturation for the final processing. The drums are pretty simple. 4 on the floor kick, clap, ride and offbeat hats. Then I add some compression and saturation to make them hit harder. I also added some background effects to keep the drop from feeling empty. Then I used risers and transition effects to connect each section and make the changes feel smoother. Throughout the drop, I use different variations of the main basses to keep things moving without repeating the exact same pattern. They follow a similar sound design and post-processing approach, with small changes in pitch, tone and movement. And finally, I sidechain the basses and sub to the kick to keep the low end clean and the groove tight. For the intro, I wanted to use something Space Laces does quite often, which is bringing old or classic music into a much heavier electronic context. So I took an older song, chopped it up, and used it as the main musical layer, instead of adding too many new elements. Then I added a few background effects and extra layers to make the section feel fuller. And underneath all of that, I'm using basically the same drums from the drop, which helps keep the groove consistent from the beginning. For the break, I kept most of the same elements from the intro. The main difference is that the classic song now plays without being chopped, giving it more space and building tension into the build-up. For the build-up, I added some risers and a background bass with effects to gradually increase the tension. Then the build-up drums come in and push everything into the drop. For the second drop, I wanted to switch things up and move into a slower hybrid trap style. The basses are heavier and more metallic, with more space between each hit and a completely different rhythm from the first drop. The sound design still follows a similar processing approach, but the arrangement feels much more hacky and spacious. And that's basically how the project comes together. And if you want to download the full project, including the FLP, stems and presets, you can find it in the description. If you have any questions about the project or anything I showed in the video, leave a comment down below. Thanks for watching.